Dream Team, it's your boy Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with Americans living in Australia, pros and cons. Would we go back? Before we dive into this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring notification bell, get a video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. You guys got a favorite video suggestion? You can subscribe to Patreon, drop it in the comment section, and check. Alright, let's see what we got.
Are you ready?
Pull yourself together, Judson. Pull yourself together.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I have my hubby with me today because we are going to be filming a long requested video of the pros and cons of living in Australia, a little bit of why we left and why we want to go back. Maybe not to live there, but definitely as a second home someday.
Just to visit Gabe.
That's dope.
Justin is not so good at appealing to the wide audience and is better at throwing in the inside jokes that nobody will get except for one person. So we're gonna start with the pros of living in Australia. My first pro is that the nature is unbeatable because Australia is kind of less inhabited. There's more kangaroos than people, I believe that's a true fact. It's kind of only inhabited on the coastlines and in major cities. So anytime that you venture out of those city areas, it's almost like nobody's ever been there before.
Rogue.
Justin described the beach that we went to as Jurassic Park like.
Yeah, if you've ever seen the Jurassic Park, the scene where the people are on the beach, that's what Australia reminds me of.
The animals are just really cool. Overall, it's very exotic because the animals are different than what we have in America or in Europe. The plants are different than what we have. They have a lot of Australian native flowers and plants. The coastlines are amazing. There was this one beach that you had to climb down the trail, like on a cliff basically, to get to the hidden beach.
Yeah, the coastlines are quite rugged, so they're very rocky and cliff-like. The beaches themselves, depending where you are, like especially in Sydney, they're very like small beaches. Like it's not like if you live in America and you go to like, I don't know, Venice, or if you live on the East Coast, you go to Miami or something, where the beach is just miles and miles and miles long. For example, in Sydney, the beaches are literally like a C shape, and you can walk from one end to the other end.
Coastal walks are amazing at pretty much every.
Dang, yeah, those freaking views are absolutely beautiful. The nature, different animals, different plants. It's something different, and you just appreciate that different because you don't have that back home. And I think that's absolutely incredible. And looking at the views on those beaches, it definitely seems sensational. Me, I enjoy looking at nature, seeing it, but like hiking or being out in the nature, I'm not the biggest fan of. But I don't know, that could change. If it was nice enough, that could change. I don't know. Nature it's animals out of nature that you ain't gonna run into in the crib or in the city, or that I don't know if I'm ready for it.
And you can walk from one end to the other end.
Coastal walks are amazing at pretty much every like major beach. Just like a trail that is intentionally built along the coastline. Fruit is insane.
Literally some of the best we've ever had.
Yeah, year round you have like amazing fruit in season. Obviously it follows seasons just like here of like mango season, papaya season, but it's way sweeter. And they don't import a lot other than from like Thailand you get produce, but like for the most part a lot of it is grown in Australia, so
like
it's
a lot of the stuff from Thailand is
really
exotic
fresh.
as well. Like maybe like guavas.
The wallabies are really cool.
I think they were kangaroos.
No, they were not.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. To the beach a lot of times though, you kind of have to take trails in Australia because that's what we mean by it's not just like a parking lot and then this big long beach like
it's
in
not
Miami.
a commercialized beach as you have in many of the American
They're more
cities.
like secret beaches. What you think of Australia is true, but still underrated.
I mean, there's a lot of desert. Everyone thinks that it's just a big desert. Yes, the center of it is a desert, but if you go on the coastline where the majority of people live, it's literally tropical paradise.
Culture in Australia.
Yeah, it absolutely looks gorgeous, bro. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and the fact that you got a trail like to each beach where they're not commercialized and stuff, I do think that is a pretty cool thing to have. The wallaby looked adorable. Oh my god, I want to. And the fruit, I've heard in multiple videos people talk about like Australian fruit like being just much better than it is here. I want to go. I want to go. Talk with art to people.
Yeah, it's nice if you're moving from an English-speaking country because you can communicate very easily.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of cultural differences that were more refreshing than anything. It took us a little bit to like understand how to communicate with people and make friends. Overall, people are very welcoming right off the bat.
Grab a coffee or grab a glass of wine, very social very quickly, and they want to hear your story.
People hold back
Second
a little
culture.
bit more in America as far as like meeting new people. They're a little bit slower with the process. And in Australia, they're just like, I just met you yesterday, but like we're gonna hang out and we're gonna act like we've been friends for years, which is really nice.
It's really nice.
There's never like that barrier of like, I don't quite know you yet. I'm like dipping my toes in the water. People are just like, bam, we're friends. So we're like Europe versus Australia. They love Americans. In a lot of countries that I've lived in Europe, they were like, ew, Americans. In Europe, people were more reserved, and that was their way of communicating. Whereas Australia, they're more like loud, bold, adventurous. People will be like, come over whenever, and they're actually serious. Like, they want you just to stop in with a bottle of wine and you'll have the evening together. Whereas in America, that does not happen. I don't know anybody that just leaves their door open and is like, literally come over whenever, unannounced.
Yeah.
Nah, that don't happen here. That don't happen here. It sounds like they're incredibly friendly and just, as you see, said, like from day one, like they meet you one day and then y'all best friends for years. Like, know what I'm saying? Come over whenever, doors open. They just want you, hey, just bring a bottle of wine through. Let's enjoy the evening. And I just met you earlier today. Yeah, that doesn't happen here. We are a little more, maybe not as reserved as Europeans, but we are a little more reserved and, you know what I'm saying, making friends and stuff. And I feel like I'm introverted, so I'm at the point where it's like, I feel like I've got my small circle of people that I'm friends with, and I don't necessarily love like going out and meeting new people or talking to new people when it comes like walking to grocery stores and just being out in public spaces. I don't go out like looking to make new friends in a sense. Whereas I feel like how they're talking, it seems like in Australia, like every stranger is just, know what I'm saying, an opportunity to make another friend. That's what it seems like the vibe is there. And I do love that. I'm not opposed to making new friends. I just don't like go out and try making new. So if someone like talked to me and was friendly, I'd be down. You know, I'd be down. What's up? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'll come through at some point.
We wanted to like be polite and like text people like, are you free? And they're like, you don't need to do that. Just walk in our door. We felt so inclusive. People.
You can't do that here. You got to text, are you free? What day do you think we should hang out? No, because you cannot just walk to somebody's door and be like, what you here for? Like, we didn't plan to hang out. I love that.
Like, don't need to do that. Just walk in our door. We felt so intrusive. People are really laid back overall, but they're still productive. You have major cities like Sydney and Brisbane that are, there's a hustle there. Like, people aren't that laid back that they're not getting things done.
Yeah.
It's not like island time, but it's still more relaxed than America.
Because even on people's day off, say it's like their day off work, they're still productive in the sense that they're like, I'm going to the gym, and then I'm meeting with my friends coffee, and then I'm going and getting my grocery shopping. They're just still very like productive for the most part.
People aren't inside very much in Australia. It's very much an outdoor culture. If you go to a cafe, you're not inside. You're outside at a cafe.
Based off the climate too. For the most part, I mean, where we were in Sydney and Byron, it's hot. It gets very hot in the summer, but it's like a temperate climate in the sense that it's never cold.
Everything is kind of open air, restaurants, cafes, gyms. It's a lot of it is just open air.
Lots of like doors that slide completely open.
Yeah.
Literally, people will just have their front door wide open.
That's interesting.
Like, while living in a city. Most people don't understand. Because a lot of the buildings are very old.
Yeah, do you remember in our first Bondi apartment, our landlord was like, yeah, just make sure you close the balcony doors when you leave. That's just so common. If you're home, your balcony doors are wide open. I was like, wait, what do you mean? Why would they be like just hanging open? But then I realized it's just normal. Career-wise, we found...
I think that's so cool. Y'all know I love our Aussie peoples, but y'all sound, the way they talk about you guys, y'all sound even more amazing than I had you guys pick for. Yeah, we know about the ACs. I do love my air conditioner. I ain't gonna lie to you guys, but I guess I could experience life without it. Could experience life opening the doors, letting the fresh air in. Could experience that. Might be nice. Might be nice.
Found, especially if you're somewhere like Sydney where there are these like international brands. An example would be Mazda. Okay, so if you're an influencer, or if you're a small business owner, or if you want to work corporate, in those three situations, you kind of have more opportunity because there's less concentration. There's less people, and then there's like more opportunity with these larger brands. Like I know a lot of influencers that would be considered small influencers in the US, but in Australia, because there's not as many people, if most of your audience is Australian, you get to do these like huge brand deals. Like we had a friend that was a photographer, he worked with huge brands, like we had several friends like that, you know? There's just a lot of opportunity because there's less concentration. That's something to think about.
Australian brands. I'm just saying, when I look at my audience, Australia makes up the larger percent of my audience than any other country. All I'm saying is I would like a brand deal. I would be down for that. I would love that. I feel like I'm an honorary Aussie. You know what I'm saying? I think that would be really dope. But yeah, I just wanted to stop and say that Australia makes up the most of my audience more than any other country. So if you're looking for an influencer, look no further. Yeah, keep it going. I'm sorry.
There's just a lot of opportunity because there's less concentration. That's something to think about if you're in a corporate job, or you know, if you have really applicable skills, like, and you wanted to move to Australia, you'll be okay. Before we go on to the cons, I thought we could end our pros with some just like funny things, and I'm sure you have things to add to my list. The posties, which are mailmen, they ride around on bikes with like little like bells, and they have like a yellow flag on the back of their bike, and they just like ride around, and like that's how your packages get delivered. So like, well, Amazon is not a thing. That's a common.
It's either like a push bike, like a pedal bike, or a actual like small little motorcycle they ride around. More rural areas.
With the yellow flag sticking out the back. It's great.
Yeah, they've got like a whole outfit.
Yeah, whole outfit.
And helmet and everything. It's really cool.
The town names and the road names are hilarious.
Whoa.
Warwalumba, Wollongong, Woolloomooloo.
My favorite was in Sydney. There was a Dank Street.
Dank Street? That one's not that funny.
I thought it was pretty good.
I can't even pronounce a lot of these words, man. A lot of these names.
Go on Google Maps and zoom in on Australia and just like try to read off all the names.
Rural areas are probably going to be funnier.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
And a lot of it comes from like some Aboriginal roots.
Names, yeah.
But the translation, I guess, they're just really confusing.
There's towns that feel like they're literally stuck in time on purpose. So we lived in Byron Bay, and there they had so many laws that kind of preserved the town. So you
kept from like big corporations essentially.
You can't build higher than 2 stories, is it?
Yeah, it's something like that.
I've never seen a building.
2 or 3 stories. There's a couple. There's a few, but not many.
3 stories.
There's definitely some like hotel buildings close to the beach that are, but outside of that, I don't think there's many.
And you can't have like McDonald's. Like the closest like big stores like that were in Ballina.
Yeah, like a 25-minute drive.
Yeah.
But that's Byron. Again, that's Byron in particular.
Yeah, but I'm saying in general, when we did a road trip, there were quite a few towns that literally felt like they were stuck in time.
Yeah.
They felt like they were stuck in like the 60s.
Yeah, once you get far enough outside the cities.
So, and it was really cool. Yeah, like very hippie and...
I think that is kind of a cool thing to have. Like just a few towns that are kind of like stuck in time. That is cool. I hear in America the 60s were more of a racial time. So I don't know if that works for us. But I think that's a really cool thing to just kind of nostalgia, kind of antique town kind of vibe. So I that's awesome.
You get far enough outside the cities.
So, and it was really cool. Yeah, like very hippie and just... Yeah, we enjoyed that. The last one is another thing about the Post. The Post doubles as like a gift shop. they like have like all these knickknacks in the post office. It's just really funny. Like that is not something they have in the
actually
United States.
all like, you know, commercial crap that nobody like you would see on TV. Like
yeah, like the row in CVS. It's like as seen on TV. That's like what the entire post office is full of, like puzzles and like
kind of like random overpriced crap,
junk
that's intriguing, but like, you know, you really shouldn't actually buy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go into cons now. I think our main con has to do with visas, because that's pretty much why we left. Was yes, it was a pandemic, so we wanted to visit home, but then we couldn't get back.
We had a very weird experience given the timing of everything.
Yeah.
Not complaining, it was excellent.
Partially had to do with not being able to leave and come back, and then the other thing was visa restrictions that were tied to jobs. If we got a student visa, we both would only be able to work 20 hours a week, which given the living costs in Australia, that's not really possible for us both to work something like a cafe or a, you know, boutique job.
Yeah, that's not 20 hours a week. Yeah, that definitely isn't feasible. No, yeah. And I think but I have seen like a different like visa video where they're like there's just starting to be new regulations where they're starting to kind of loosen up on some of these restrictions and things and so I think that's awesome. But yeah, I mean, in the past I have seen like lack of options when it comes to like, I mean, what you can do there and what kind of visa you have to have. And I feel like it's harder to get like a residency in Australia than other countries, but I could be completely wrong about that.
Possible for us both to work something like a cafe or a, you know, boutique job and only work 20 hours a week. We couldn't make it work. So that was a bit tricky. And then also the other option for a visa was for Justin to get sponsored through a company.
It overall ends up being quite an expensive process for both yourself and the business. And depending which trade and job you're in, even if you apply and you pay for, like I think out of pocket for us would have been like 10 grand maybe for me to get sponsored and what I would have had to pay. And even with that happening, there's still not always the guarantee that you're gonna get the visa. And for the company, they would get their money back for trying to sponsor you, but for you personally, like if your visa didn't go through for some reason, it's well worth it. But just in our case, like I would have, for the experience, if you don't have a college degree, you have to have of college level experience equivalent basically. So for me, I would have needed like 5 years of uninterrupted basically work in that industry. The Australian government incentivizes like Australian companies to hire Australians.
Yeah.
They basically make it a cash cow for the government. If a business is going to hire and sponsor an employee that's not Australian and is going through the visa process, they're essentially trying to make as much money off it as possible as more like revenue. In some ways I respect, because they're trying to incentivize companies to hire Australians over foreigners. Australia reliant on Australians, but
I do feel that, but yeah, like having to pay $10K to go get this job overseas, or know what I'm saying, in Australia, and that's not a guarantee that I am gonna get that visa. And the job that sponsored me, if they put their money up, they can get their money back, but my $10K ain't coming back. There's not a lot of people who can take that kind of risk. There's not a lot of people who have $10K to just possibly lose. That's kind of how it sounded to me. Like, Jesus. Yeah, that Australia, I'll come for like a week or two. You know what I'm saying? But none of these visas sound feasible for me.
Needs to hire Australians over foreigners, keep Australia reliant on Australians, but at the same time, you know, for people wanting to immigrate and stuff, it's definitely tricky. And there is a system you can go. I mean, there's so many people that I respect who spent years building their lives there and like worked kind of crappy jobs to live the life in a sense. And it can take like 5 to 8 years.
Yeah.
So depending what your goals are, it's definitely viable. But in our case, for what we saw on our goals, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah. We went on a working holiday visa. You can only work at a single company for 6 months.
Yeah, you can get exception. Again, the Australian government's very confusing. There's like exceptions and clauses and stuff. It's very tricky and very regulated.
So email immigration, and that's never fun. Moving on to cultural things. Honestly, I don't have a lot with cultural things because we really love the culture there, but I try to be critical and pick out the things that I think are worth mentioning. So the first one, we were just talking about this before we started recording, is the tall poppy syndrome, which basically means that the bigger you get, the more successful you get, the more people don't like you.
They essentially love the underdog. Say you had a company that was a small family-owned company and you grow it from being a couple $100,000 company a year to being a multi-million dollar highly successful company. They don't like that. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like in America everything runs off capitalism, and it can be bad. There's bad things about it here, but in Australia it's definitely that more underdog support a company, and then once they get too big it's kind of like,
oh, they sold out. Like
it's kind of, you sell out, like they aren't good anymore, that type of thing.
Whereas I can understand that attitude, and I feel like that's kind of like a human like attitude, and I feel like that's not just Australia, like that's more in the world. Like a lot of people love to see you like on your rise to the top, and they love to cheer for you and root for the underdog, but it seems like when you get to the top, a lot of people then root to see you fall. Like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people want to see you fall down from the top. And so I feel like that's more of a around the world type of thing. Yeah. But I'm a big fan of, like, if you make it to the top, like, congratulations. You put in the work to get there. Especially if you started off with like nothing, or if you started off with something, you started off with a head start because maybe your parents put in the work. Like, it's still respectable, and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? You're up there. I'm happy for you. I want to get up there with you, but I'm not rooting for your downfall. I'm just rooting to rise to that level as well. And so I never understand when people like root for you to be successful, to make it to the top, to be great, and then once you get there, now people are kind of rooting for like the next underdog, and they're rooting for that underdog to beat you and get to the top, and now they're rooting for your downfall. And so, but there's a difference if you get to the top and then you change, and then you like start like being an a-hole or freaking, you know what I'm saying? You start treating people like crap, then it's understandable. But I'm ranting too much. I'm talking too much.
I sold out. Like,
it's kind of, you sell out. Like, they aren't good anymore, that type of thing. Whereas it's more celebrated in America. Like, if you... Like,
wow, they're taking the company from here to here, but for that, like, it's not like that.
That is true. I say it was a around the world thing, but that is true. I feel like you are celebrated, but still, there are still people who want to see you fall. But you are going to be celebrated from getting to this level. People love an underdog story. But once you're on top, you're no longer the underdog. People don't love that story anymore.
Not to say that it isn't. There's definitely companies like that, and that's not speaking for all Australians.
No.
Just
that's the general kind of vibe towards success. People are late, which I guess in this case it is for island time. People are late a lot of times.
I think it's warm weather climates as well. People are more go with the flow.
More laid back. And they cancel at the last minute, which that was hard for me. Because I'm like a planner. You just kind of get used to it and you start to prepare for it. You're just like, it's fine.
I don't mind it because I grew up in a family that's very good with the flow. So for me it was kind of fun because people would just make last second like plans, and it's just, but if you're a bit more like structured and regimented and like to have your week planned out, people will drop things on you randomly or cancel randomly, and that doesn't work well for you.
I've gotten better with it, but
I feel I can slightly go with the flow, but I'm more of a planner person. Like, I like to know what I'm doing for the week, and I don't like when people like drop things on me or drop things in my lap that I hadn't planned for. I can go with the flow, but I'd much rather things be planned out. That's just the way that I live. I'm like her. Like, that would have kind of bothered me if things were set up and then last minute, like, you canceled on me. Unless it was for something, like, very important, I would have been like, dang, like, that's kind of frustrating.
I'd say in general, things move a little slower. People are a little slower to get things done, especially when it comes to construction.
Yeah, anything that's, like, state-related. Government-related takes, like, forever, literally. Like, they'll have complex like road projects or construction projects.
It's just like, have they made any progress on this? That's what we always said about like when they were working at Bombay. So funny things. People don't use dryers. That was a bit of a shock for us.
But it's more of it's because electricity is so expensive and dryers take so much electricity, so
it makes sense, but we had to adjust to it. It was like,
hang out your wash.
If you want something to be dry, you have to plan for it like 2 days in advance because it won't dry in one day. So you have to have your laundry hanging outside for like 2 days.
This is during the winter as well, when it'll be like 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
It actually does get cold in Sydney. It does get cold.
Yeah.
So that's another con is that a lot of apartments don't have. You have to buy your own like.
You can get like a
heater.
little space heater.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
It's not that bad, but they're not built like buildings are not insulated, so they get way colder than buildings do in the U.S. because we have more insulation. It's just built for.
Disclaimer though, we also grew up in the Northeast in
True.
Pennsylvania where we have gnarly winters and really hot, humid summers. So everything's insulated properly, so
it
that
actually stays warm.
it's not. Yeah, it's not as drastic.
Our apartment got so cold in the winter.
I liked it actually.
Rent is super expensive.
Me and cold are not a thing. Me and cold do not work. I hate cold. I hate being cold. I'd much rather. I don't like being hot, but I'd much rather be hot than be cold.
Apartment got so cold in the winter.
I liked it actually.
Rent is super expensive, especially in Sydney. And then we moved to Byron Bay, and because Byron Bay
with COVID, a lot of people were moving there to get out of the cities because everyone was working remotely. So there was like a lot of people relocating to more rural areas, and then it was causing the rent prices to inflate. So at some point, hopefully, it regulates for the people that live there long term, and it's not as bad. But you're looking at like,
I don't think it will.
If you've ever looked up like rentals in California, or it's going to be comparable. Like Sydney was pretty expensive. With that noted as well, which is very strange, is you pay by the week.
Yeah.
Or so bi-weekly basically.
If you're looking online at like apartment rentals, just take it times 4, and that's how you can kind of compare it, and then of course do the conversion rate.
Yeah.
But just keep that in mind if you're searching for an apartment.
That's weird.
To end, we're gonna.
Yeah. If you live in California, you got money. Here in the United States, you live in California, you got money, bro. Like, it's just way more expensive out there. So if Sydney's like California, then yeah, you probably got to have money to be out there.
Talk about our favorite Australian lingo, because I feel like that's what people are here for, right? My favorite one I'm going to start with is Midgie bites. That is mosquito bites.
I mean, learned this while we were on a van trip from some
Midgie. I thought y'all called mosquitoes mozzies. This is the first time I've ever heard Midgie bites. I've never heard that one. I've always heard like mozzie. Huh.
I don't know where they were from. They were like, I don't know, they were kind of bogan. Again, bogan means like redneck or like country kind of. Bogan, so there's one word. Yeah. But we met these people who are super country.
They're like, all the midgies.
They kept saying midgie bites.
Midgie bites. Cruising is really common. People are like, oh, like a cruisy arvo at this place with a glass of wine. It means just like a chill place. Like it's cruisy. Bloke is like.
That's the first time I've ever heard cruisy. So cruisy's like chill. Okay, that makes sense. Bloke is like a guy. Man.
It's just common with guys.
Random. They'll be talking about some random guy and be like, the bloke like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Cut me off, homeless or like drug addicts. It sounds bad, but they call them fully cooked units.
Yeah,
which is like pretty good because they're usually a bit crazy because they've done too much drugs.
Yeah.
Fully cooked unit. That's a good name, Australia. I rock with y'all on that slang right
it's
there.
Like expensive, like it's a bit exy. Like if you're talking about a restaurant, you're like, oh, that's pretty exy. You know, if you're,
I rock with it. First time I've heard that.
Toasty and Sanga are like sandwiches.
Toasties is like they use panini presses.
Yeah, it's like a grilled cheese kind of, but I guess a panini.
Okay, they've got like the European sandwich influence in Australia, and they make really good sandwiches.
Toasties. Yeah, the food is different there, like sausage rolls, toasties. You go to like a little corner coffee shop, and they have like stuff like that. A bloody legend.
Yeah.
Bloody legend.
They say legend a lot, or ledge.
Just an awesome guy, like bloody legend, an awesome person, like they're legendary, like.
Legend.
All the Australians just cringe.
I feel like there's some that are. I just need to think for a second, and I know I'm gonna have some more.
Mm-hmm. Oh, mom is mum, so like mummy, mum. With a U. They call babies bubs, so like.
Bub, really?
It's like, how good is this, or how good is that? Like when they're talking about like
how good something is.
Yeah,
they always say how good.
Right, how good is.
And you guys probably know this if you know anything about Australia, but if you've never been there, maybe not. Everybody instead of saying how are you, like if you walk in the shop, hey, how's your day going? They would say how you going, rather than how's it going. Kind of. Says that.
Yeah, you can figure that.
Yeah, you can figure that one out. Everything is just shortened.
Yeah.
Your name is always shortened.
Yeah.
I was instantly M, which was great with me because I love when people call me M.
People call me Juzzy.
Yeah, Juzzy, you wouldn't necessarily think in America, like, oh, that name would
There's
be
always a Y.
shortened to this, but in Australia, like Lauren is Laws. That's kind of a different
Usually
one.
a Z or a Y. It's
Yeah.
added to the end. If you go there, you'll meet great people.
Yeah.
You'll love the scenery. The birds are really cool. I love the birds personally. I don't know. Overall, it's just a really great place.
Yeah.
We will always go back and visit.
Yeah.
We have really great friends that we made there. I would 100% move back, even if I knew I was only going to stay for 6 months or 12 months.
Yeah.
Like, especially for someone who's single. You know,
if you're
kids.
single and you're ready to mingle, move to Australia
Yeah.
and get a freaking partner visa, because that would have been the key.
Yeah. For those of you who don't have visas, that's another option. If you would like find someone and start dating them, and say you can stay in a relationship with them for like 2 years, it's pretty easy to like. I mean, you have to prove it that you're in a relationship, and they will actually make you prove it. Like prove that you've been communicating for that long stuff. But definitely have kind of like a easier transition. Still expensive, but an easier transition to stay long term. People are great, the culture's great, the food's great, the beach is great.
The coffee.
The coffee will
It's
ruin you
phenomenal.
because it's so good.
Thank you guys for watching. If you want more Australia videos, please leave a comment below.
If you would like us to do like kind of a Australian American, what do they call it when there's two people?
Collab?
No, is it like stitched together or something on TikTok? What do they call it? I don't know. I'm out of the loop. When you have like two different people and they're doing the same topic, right? I don't know.
Collab?
But, no, yeah, kind of a collab. But if you'd like to see a collab between us and an Australian in one video, I think
that's what it would be called, like collaboration, right? Yeah, that's.
we could probably work that out somehow and get like our Australian counterparts. We could have a conversation. It'd be pretty interesting.
Yes, if you guys would want that.
See the two cultures collide, because they could probably tell you things about us that is quite weird.
That would be good. Actually, that would be a true like America versus Australia. So if you guys want that, leave a comment below. Credits to Justin for that idea. And we will try to get an Australian on this channel.
I've got it covered.
I know who it would be. Okay, thank you guys. Leave me a like and a comment because it supports my channel. And I will see you soon. I'm starting a new job like next week. So I'm going to try to stick with YouTube, but might be a little MIA. But leave me a message with whatever videos you want, and I will get to it. Thanks for watching.
Hey, I would love to see that collaboration video if they got it on there. I'll check it out and see. But that's all we got for this one. That was a great video. If you guys have a favorite video suggestion, you can subscribe to Patreon or drop it in the comment section. It's your boy Neal out.